How much Ethereum do you need to retire? We're going to go through that today, talk about different scenarios based on where you think Ethereum's going, and also how much money you need to retire, how much you're going to spend each year. Of course, people are very excited about Ethereum right now because it's moving up very quickly. Keep in mind, just a few days ago, honestly, 11 days ago, Ethereum was at 2,600. Now it's at 3,600 and moving up very quickly. We'll go through everything you need to know about Ethereum right now. I actually just made a video on Ethereum as well. I'll put it on the end screen. And yeah, Ethereum is looking very bullish. It's up a lot in the last few days, up 7% in the last 24 hours, outperforming everything. Of course, there is some significant resistance. So resistance is where we typically move up to and then go back down. There's a lot of resistance between about 4,000 and 4,100. So I'd be looking for a clean breakout above this level. And then we'll be going up to prior all-time highs, most likely, around 4,800. So pay attention right now. This is a big moment for ETH. If you want to trade Ethereum, by the way, there is a link underneath the video to BYDeFi. I've been trading over on BYDeFi for a couple weeks, and I really love it. We've been able to make life-changing gains this bull market with trading. You can see I'm up 340% on this Ethereum trade, 800% on BTC, and 830% on XRP. So if you want to start trading, you can check out the link to BYDeFi. They have some great bonuses going on right now. You get some free Bitcoin just for trading over the next week, and they have deposit bonuses. Of course, we continue to run more and more campaigns to get you guys free money. If you want some help leverage trading too, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I do have some videos on the end screen that I'll put to help you walk through how I look at leverage trading. And there's a Telegram group underneath the video in case you want to start getting these videos a little bit early. This video is actually going up early to that Telegram group. It's completely free, by the way. Now, the Treasury official just said on Bloomberg that $9 trillion of 401k should be allowed to buy crypto. He actually talked about cryptocurrency assets in general, not just Bitcoin. We've seen also some regulation go through this week that's looking extremely bullish for altcoins and stablecoins. A lot of stablecoins obviously run on Ethereum, so a lot of people are excited. The big boys are buying a lot of Ethereum. BlackRock's ETF bought about $545 million worth of Ethereum. This is after a record day the day before with $490 million. Keep in mind, when they're buying $500 million in ETH, that is the equivalent of multiple billions in Bitcoin in terms of market cap, which we've never seen. I don't think we've seen a multi-billion-dollar day from the Bitcoin ETFs, but this is massive for Ethereum. And we also have news that BlackRock wants staking on their ETF. So all these things are extremely bullish for Ethereum. Large investors, institutions want staking, and they're going to love when they can start getting staking within these cryptocurrency assets because it's going to provide a yield on top of the abnormally large gains that they normally get. And there are Ethereum treasury companies like Tom Lee's company that recently bought $1 billion worth of Ethereum, and they look at it as Ethereum's even more volatile than Bitcoin, so we'll be able to buy even more Ethereum. So Ethereum has a lot of things going for it right now, which is why it's going up in value. Of course, I do think anything outside of Bitcoin adds an extra layer of risk because all these different cryptocurrency assets are vying to be like the number one, layer one, while Bitcoin's kind of in a class of its own. But that's not what this video is about. What you want to know is how much Ethereum do you need, right? If you want to retire on only Ethereum, do you need 2 Ethereum? Do you need 5? Do you need 50? Do you need 1,000? We'll talk about that. Now, of course, I don't know your situation. I don't know how much money you spend. I don't know what your goals are. So I'm gonna put out 5 different scenarios. Base case scenario: you need $100,000 to live each year. $100,000 in annual expenses. For some people, that's not nearly enough. For some people, that's way too much. You don't need that where you live. But that's a base case. And then we're going to get into scenarios where you spend a lot more, like FATFIRE. FIRE standing for Financial Independence, Retire Early. So this is the next step up. You spend $250,000 a year annually. And then let's say you want to spend $1 million a year. How much Ethereum do you need for that? Okay, then we'll go to lean fire. Maybe you don't need $100,000 a year. Maybe your expenses are fairly low, at least by US standards. Maybe you just spend $50,000 a year. Maybe you don't like to go out to eat or drink, or you don't have these kinds of vices, and you do a lot of things yourself. Okay, $50,000 a year might be enough for you. And then coasting fire. This is also called like barista fire, where you save as much as possible over the next, let's say, 10 years, and then you just let it compound. You take a lower paying job maybe, so you don't have to invest anything really based on what you invest over the next 10 years, and then you just let your investments grow until they're big enough that you can retire. We're going to assume then that Ethereum gets a 10% compounded annual growth rate for 20 years after 2033. So like 2 cycles from now, you put as much as you can into these assets, and then you just kind of coast for the next 20 years. Maybe you're 25 and then you retire at 55 or something like that. Now, again, I don't know where Ethereum is going to go. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to 20,000 this cycle. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to 10. I'm leaving that up to you. Let's look at some different scenarios. Maybe you think Ethereum is going to 5,000 over the next 2 cycles. Actually, I should change this to 2033, right? Maybe you think it's going to 5,000, which honestly is not much from here. That's like a 30% return, so that'd be pretty bearish. Maybe you think it's going to 15,000. Maybe you think it's going to 40 or 80 or 160,000. 160,000 puts it in line with where gold is right now. You think basically it's going to swallow up all the other layer ones. There's going to be so many stable coins, and so many countries are going to be running stuff on stable coins, sending payments out. Maybe not countries sending payments out, but banks sending payments out via stable coins. And there's going to be so much activity. It's going to become deflationary, and it's going to grow significantly. All right. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you what you have to believe. I'm just letting you find the numbers yourself in these charts. So if you're just listening, you might want to watch. We're going to assume too that the ETH supply stays pretty steady. Right now, it's just slightly inflationary, but as more network activity happens, it becomes deflationary. And we're going to say the staking rewards are just 1%. That's much lower than what they're at now, 3 to 5%, but we're going to assume that maybe more people stake over time, or we're just not going to assume that you can make as much, right? Let's sandbag the numbers a little bit. So we're going to assume a 5% safe withdrawal rate. This kind of comes from the traditional finance world of the 4% safe withdrawal rate. They did some studies saying basically with a certain portfolio size, you could withdraw 4% of that a year and you wouldn't run out of money in most scenarios. Of course, that is with a diversified portfolio. This is with a single asset, so it's not exactly 1-to-1, but again, we're just going to assume the 4% rule, but we're going to make it the 5% rule because you get this staking reward. And eventually you'll be able to do this straight in your like BlackRock account or your BlackRock ETF, so you won't even have to do it actively. It'll just be done for you. Also, you should probably diversify. Like, even if you feel the most strongly about Ethereum, you probably should have some Bitcoin. You should probably have some assets outside of crypto as well. I have assets that I don't think will perform as well as Bitcoin or Ethereum, but I still hold them because I like to diversify. And if all of a sudden ETH and Bitcoin fall drastically, it'd be nice to be able to sell some of the other assets to put into crypto. So enough disclaimers. Let's get down to the numbers. If you think Ethereum's going to $15,000, so basically a 4x over the next 8 years, and from the previous peak in 2021, we're talking about just a 3x over 3 cycles. So not crazy to think about. And you want to spend $100,000 a year, you need 133 Ethereum. You might be sitting there thinking, wow, that's a lot of Ethereum. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're basically banking on a 4x for Ethereum from here. It's still going to be expensive to retire and spend $100,000 a year because you need $2 million worth of Ethereum in this example. Now, maybe you think Ethereum's going to go much higher. Maybe you think it's going to go to 80,000. Okay, then you need 25. You need $2 million worth of Ethereum. What if you want to spend more? Well, again, if you think Ethereum is going to maybe $40,000, you need 125 Ethereum. So don't come at me in the comments. This is just how the numbers break down. We'll go through how you can get there with less, and we'll go through how much this actually costs with today's dollars. Maybe you want to get a little bit more aggressive with the withdrawal rate. Maybe you want to take out 6%. You say, well, there's going to be 2% staking rewards. Then I'll withdraw 4 anyways. Or you think it's going to grow a little bit faster. Okay, so instead of maybe 50 Ethereum, maybe you just need 41. Or instead of needing 6.25, if you think Ethereum is going to go up to 160,000 and you only need $50,000 a year in annual expenses, instead of needing 6.25, you only need 5.22. Again, this might seem like a lot because it is, right? It's not cheap. Even if Ethereum goes up, 5x, it's still not cheap to retire, right? Because then you're just banking on a 5x and you still need to get to millions of dollars most likely. The cost today has gone up, right? If you want to buy 50 Ethereum, so if you want to buy 50 Ethereum, the cost has gone up. It's $185,000 today, assuming you're buying at 3,700. Ethereum's just slightly below that right now. But keep in mind, I made these videos during the bottom of the bear market. So if you had listened to me, not just when we're at 37, but if you had been watching for a while, the bottom of the bear market, this would have cost just 45,000 instead of 185,000. 45,000. Now maybe you didn't have 45,000. Maybe you couldn't invest during the bottom of the bear market. Okay, well, even if you didn't have $45,000 to put in at the exact bottom, maybe you put in 5,000 or 10,000 and you're a quarter of the way there. That's better than nothing, right? That's still a really good investment right now. Bottom of the bear market to now, Ethereum's up, 4x? Not quite as much as Bitcoin or XRP or Solana, but a 4x over 3 years is still a really good return in just about anyone's mind. The key is to dollar cost average. If you had done this at the bottom of the previous bear market, instead of $185,000, you have needed $4,100, right? Not very much. Ethereum at the bottom of the 2018 bear market was $82. So the key is to dollar cost average over time. We don't know where Ethereum is going. We don't know where Bitcoin or XRP or Solana is going. But if you feel strongly, you should probably acquire some. You should probably buy some. Of course, you can't take on so much risk that you're uncomfortable. You can't sleep at night. But you should probably acquire some, right? And of course, at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to your income as well. Like if you make $30,000 a year and you spend $29,000 a year, you're just not going to retire probably ever at these current numbers. It's just a fact. Unless you make 1 million X on your position, or maybe not even a million X, but a 10,000 X, which I would not be trying to do. I'd really be focusing on making more money. Unless you do that, you're not going to retire. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't set goals in the meantime, right? You don't need to retire this year or next year or anything like that. Maybe you just want a larger amount of money. Maybe you want $10,000. Well, how much money do you need if Ethereum goes to 15? Well, you need about $2,500 in Ethereum now. If you want $50,000 and you think Ethereum's going to go to $15,000, you want $50,000, you need about $12,333 now. If you want $250,000, maybe you want to buy like a Midwest home in cash or something like that, and you think Ethereum's going to 15,000, you need to put in about $62,000. Okay, so you can have goals set up. You don't need to necessarily retire on Ethereum or anything like that. Even if it's just a small part of your portfolio and it does well, that's good. That's good. Maybe you want dollar cost average to $250,000. Let's say you started last year, right? Ethereum was 3,700. You didn't even buy at the perfect time, but let's just say it continues to go up about 15% a year. 15% a year for the next 20 years. You could just buy about $40 a week. $40 a week of Ethereum. Just a small amount. What is that? 0.001 Ethereum each week. And you just continue to buy. In 20 years, you'd have 250,000. Now, I think you should probably set your goals higher than that. I don't think that's quite enough. But that's still better than a lot of people have, right? Now, if you want to know how much Ethereum you need to have more than most people on Earth, to be clear, like you can get your hands on this. If you're watching this video, you can get your hands on more Ethereum than most people can ever buy. The Ethereum supply right now is just under 121 million. Let's say the ETH supply continues to grow by 1% a year, just to keep it conservative. There are 8.1 billion people on Earth. Population in 10 years, if it grows by 1% a year, just under 9 billion people. That means everyone on Earth can afford 0.015 Ethereum, or can buy, right? If it was distributed completely equally, which it's not going to be. There are going to be people that have a lot more Ethereum than other people that get staking rewards. There are people that already have, hundreds of thousands of Ethereum right now, or tens of thousands of Ethereum. So it's not going to be split up equally. So if you have 0.01, you're probably going to have more than most people, right? Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. If you do want to trade Ethereum, you can actually make more Ethereum than what you have right now, because you can trade with Ethereum. What I mean by that is on BYDeFi, if you have Ethereum, you can actually trade Ethereum with Ethereum as collateral. Most platforms allow you to trade different cryptos with USDT. So you have $100 of USDT, you can trade the Ethereum chart, and then you get rewarded if you're profitable in USDT. But here, let's say you have some Ethereum and you want more Ethereum, you can have one Ethereum as collateral on an Ethereum trade. Let's say Ethereum goes in doubles and you're on 10x leverage. You get 1,000% gain, but it's paid out in Ethereum, which has gone up in price as well. So that could be pretty bullish for you, pretty beneficial, and you could get your hands on even more Ethereum. So check that out. I'll put some videos on the end screen kind of explaining how I trade, and also the video that I made just the other day on Ethereum, some of the bullish news. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon.